Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is John Lodel, and I'm the English chair here at Belleville West. And if you can see behind me, you can't quite see everyone we have gathered, but we have approximately about 500 to 600 students here this morning, most of whom are sophomores and who've read your book Sold. And so I'm going to turn things over to you here, and then, in the last 10 minutes or so, we've got some students who'd love to ask you a few questions about the book.
Okay, this is kind of an amazing experience. I feel like I'm at a pep rally, and then I'm out on the gym floor, and all of you are there. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to hear your questions and hear what you thought about the book. And I'm also interested in hearing about the things that you didn't like. Especially, I hear a lot about the ending. So if there's anybody who has questions or comments or complaints about the ending, let's talk about that. But I guess the first thing I really should have done is to thank your teacher for putting this together. It's a very rare teacher who arranges this kind of special opportunity for his students. And it is a lot of work, and you've got a wonderful teacher. So shall we start with just you guys asking questions?
Hello, my name is Scott.
Hi.
And my question is, how long did it take you to research and write Sold?
The whole thing took about 2.5 years, which is not unusual with a book. It took me a good 6 months to do my research. And then I spent about a month in India and Nepal, and then came home and assimilated all of that. And believe it or not, I work every day. I work a couple hours a day writing, but it still takes that long to come up with a first draft and then get responses from my editor and then revise it. So I get redlining notes on my work just like you get on yours. It says awkward or give an example here. The very same comments that your English teachers give you, I get. And then somebody has to do a cover and then they print it. So it's a long process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for going first.
I broke it. Hi. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Abby.
Hi, Abby.
I was wondering, are there any places that you wrote about that stand out in your memory when you were visiting?
Were there any places that I wrote about? What was the last part of the sentence?
That stood out in your memory while you were visiting?
Well, yes. I mean, a couple things in particular. The really little village in Nepal that I visited, where the girls were from which they were trafficked. So a stranger comes to these little villages and says, we'll take your daughter and we'll get her a good job and she'll have good housing and food. And those villages are so poor. It's unbelievable. I've seen poverty around the world in different places. It's just, they live on about $145 a year, a family of four. And so seeing both how crude the conditions are, also contrasting that with how unbelievably beautiful the Himalayas are. The air is so cool and crisp, and the sky is blue, and the fields are like this amber color, and the women wear red dresses. Visually, it's incredibly beautiful, but incredibly poor. And now when you think of the earthquake, I don't know how people are going to come back from that. Sorry. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Matthew. Was there ever a moment when you're doing your research for Sold that you thought you could not continue?
Anytime I was doing my research and I thought I couldn't continue, is that your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. When I was in the brothels, I'd been there for about a week, going in each morning with an aid group that helps take care of the children of the brothels and provides condoms to the women who live there. I had been there maybe, I don't know, the fourth or the fifth day. And in a room down the hall from where I was interviewing one woman, a man started beating the woman that he was with. And I jumped up to, do what I could do to intervene. And my interpreter, the aid worker, said, "You can't do anything. You have to stay here. He will, if he sees you, a white woman, trying to stop him and tell him what to do, he will hurt her worse. He will hurt you. He will hurt me. We could all die. And I won't be able to come back here to the brothels to do my job anymore." And so I actually physically sat there while a few yards away, another human being was being beaten, and I didn't do anything. And that was such a painful experience. It just destroyed my sense of myself as a person with a conscience. But fortunately, another man came along and beat up the first one, and it all ended in a matter of probably under 2 or 3 minutes. But it destroyed me. It made me feel so dirty, and so that I had no integrity. And I went back to my hotel room that night, and I just shook with rage at myself and at the conditions that I had seen. I almost didn't finish.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I'm sorry if you can hear that. I can't turn my phone off, but it'll stop ringing in a minute. Okay.
Hello, my name is Constantine.
Hi.
I was curious, was Lakshmi's character inspired by a specific person you had met or just read about?
You know, she's really a composite of a number of people. There's not any one girl that is exactly Lakshmi, but I did meet one girl whose father took the cucumbers that she was growing and sold them. I met somebody else whose boyfriend, tricked her and said he was taking her to the movies, and he put the date rape drug in her drink and sold her. I met somebody who tried to escape. I met somebody who was afraid to escape. So I took a little bit from each person's story and put it together to create one composite story that made use of different elements that I wanted to make sure readers were aware of.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Dallas.
Hi.
Have you ever considered making a sequel at the end of Sold?
Well, the dirty little secret is that I wrote 60 more pages that are not in the book. So I wrote the book up to the point where she says, "I'm Lakshmi, I'm 14 years old." And that's kind of the beginning of her getting out of there. Then I wrote a story about another vignette about how when she steps outside, she could feel the sunshine on her body. And like she hadn't been outside in a year. And then she got a bath, and then she got clean clothes, and then she got an HIV test, and she waited for the results of the HIV test, and it turned out she was clean. And then I wrote that her mother came looking for her. No, I didn't like that. I wrote one where she went back home, and the little goat herd, the boy that she loved, saw her, Krishna, when she walked back into the village, he saw her, and he said he still loved her and that they were going to get married. And my editor said, "Nope. It ends at the moment of change, just when she's turning the corner to relief and to safety." And that way, the readers have to fill in the blanks with their own imagination about what happened after that moment. So the ending is like, it's uncomfortable. You kind of like, is this it? But the good news, I hope, is that it stays on your mind, and it involves you in the creative process where you try to figure out or think or use your compassion to imagine what her life is like after that. Like when you watch a TV show, like you watch Family Guy, and it's all over in 28 minutes, and it slips off your mind because all the loose ends are tied up. I wanted this to be something where the loose ends aren't tied up and that they stay with you and they bother you a little bit.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Hello, I'm Emily.
Hi.
Okay, so When writing about such heavy topics, is it difficult for you to separate yourself from the book and not let your feelings overwhelm you? And how do you separate yourself from your writing after you've finished?
You know, I'm so sorry. I only heard the first few words, which were when writing about such heavy topics. Can you
Okay.
say that again, please, honey?
Yes. Is it difficult for you to separate yourself from the book and not let your feelings overwhelm you?
No, it's not. It's not possible. I pretend that it is, but it's really not. I cry a lot when I write. I get so deeply entrenched in the experience of Lakshmi or whoever else I'm writing about. It's almost like acting, like I pretend that I am her while I'm writing. And it's very painful. And, but I also overcome the sense of sadness and despair by saying, okay, well, I couldn't save that woman who was being beaten up. I could not save any of the people that I got connected to, but I can write about it. I can tell their stories, bring them to the world, bring them. Who would have ever thought that an auditorium full of sophomores would be talking about this? But that's how I contribute to changing the situation. And so by writing, I lost some of that sense of powerlessness and felt power over the story because I can help to create change. The other thing is I make a really conscious effort when I'm done with my writing day to do something fun or stupid or happy. I do yoga. I go for walks with my friends. I play the flute. I watch a lot of really stupid television like Family Guy, Jim Carrey, Ollie G, to remind myself that the world is full of everything, that there's sadness and evil and despair, but there's also kindness and goodness and humor, and just try to keep some balance in my life. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Mara,
Hi,
and I
Mara.
was wondering, what part of Sold was the hardest for you to write emotionally?
The hardest part to write was the very first rape scene where she's been given that drink and she's drugged and she doesn't really know what's going on. And she's being acted upon as if she's in a dream by that guy named Habib. And it was hard because it's a child being raped with no real understanding of what's happening. But it was also sort of hard in a way because you can't use graphic language to write that. So if you were reading a different book, a character set in a more sophisticated world, that character would use the word rape. That character might use the names for body parts or what have you and make it sound really violent and lurid. But she's a 13-year-old kid her frame of reference is like this big. And so what you can write about is her feeling of bewilderment and betrayal and confusion. And that's, to me, much more painful, much harder to read than a something that uses graphic language, because you can feel the devastation of her innocence in a way, as much as you can feel her physical pain and confusion. But I think that's what makes people want to get involved in making a change.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Grant.
Hi.
My question is, what is the most difficult part about writing about sex trafficking?
I'm sorry, I missed the very first part. If you could just lean a little closer to the microphone.
Okay. What is the most difficult part about writing about controversial topics like sex trafficking?
Good. Now I understand what you said. The most difficult part, and I know this sounds really goofy, but like saying to my friends, yeah, I'm writing a book about sex trafficking. It's like people want to run to the other side of the room. Yeah, I'm writing a book about genocide. Oh, great. Or I'm writing a book about a girl who self-injures. Oh, aren't you a barrel of laughs? It's part of it is keeping my self-respect and my core sense of this is my mission. You might not like it. I might not be the most popular speaker on the children's authors circuit, but this is my mission. This is what I do. And it's hard to hear critics say, oh, children shouldn't be reading these books. This is beyond them, or this ruins their innocence of their childhood, et cetera, et cetera. And I just don't think that's true. I think that kids your age really do want to know what's happening to your peers around the world and are very generous and very compassionate and very activist. But you can't go to Nepal. You're in high school. So if somebody else does that work, brings the book back, and you respond to it, that's a beautiful thing. But getting pushback from people and from critics saying, why are you writing these awful books? Well, maybe read one of the awful books and find that it's not the book that's awful, it's the situation that's happening in the world that's awful. So that was kind of a, flippant response. That's not the worst part of writing the books, but that's a part of it. Not having your work respected. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm Alexis. In Sold, Lakshmi is saved by Americans. How often does this happen in real life, and how many organizations are dedicated to this kind of rescue?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you. What was the question about what happens in real life?
How often are the girls saved by Americans in real life, and how many organizations are dedicated to this kind of rescue?
Okay, gotcha. I don't know how often it happens. I don't think it happens that often. And I will tell you that I think I made sort of a mistake with the book in that the rescuer is the white American who comes in and saves the day. And that plays into that whole stereotype that we have of ourselves as Westerners, or we know better than other cultures. But the truth of the matter is, at the time I was writing the book, it was the Americans who were doing the rescues. And I also wanted there to be a white American character, I guess not white, but an American character that my readers would relate to. If the book is all about people from India and Nepal with strange names and backgrounds so completely different from theirs, they have a hard time relating. So if there's an American character in there, that's kind of a representation of you and of all of us, and it's a way for Western readers to enter the story. But I think if I were writing the book today, I would make that rescuer a local person, because oh my gosh, I wrote the book in 2006 and they did the research in 2004. So it's a long time ago. At that time, that wasn't true. The locals weren't doing the work, but now they are. And so it's important to give credit to local people.
Thank you.
Oh, you definitely have to. That a girl.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Kearns, and my question was, what effect did you want your book to have on the kids, and did it fulfill what you wanted it to do?
My hope for the book was just to make people aware. I didn't have a particular agenda or goal, and I feel like you don't read to be preached to. You don't read to be taught something. You read in part for entertainment or for enlightenment, or you want to care. As teenagers in particular, you have plenty of people telling you what to do and what not to do. So I felt like it was the respectful thing to just lay out the story and let you decide what, if anything, you want to do. And I have been unbelievably touched by how much understanding and empathy young readers have shown toward the issue of trafficking and raising money to help the girls, raising awareness. And that's all I need in life. Or hearing from some girl, I've gotten letters from many kids who say, I have never finished a book, but I finished your book. That's the best thing I could ever hope for.
All right. Thank you. I loved your book.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Judah.
Hi.
When did you first decide you wanted to be a writer, and can you give any advice to students who are interested in writing?
Oh, great question. I always knew I wanted to be a writer. I was that nerdy kid who wrote poems and plays, and even when I was 8 years old, I was carrying a briefcase. Okay? It was my father's old briefcase. It was about as big as I was. And I thought if I had a briefcase, that meant I was a writer. But I also had a lot of turmoil in my home, a lot of sadness, and so I would sneak away and write these stories that were just an escape for me. And then later I learned that actually that is, if we each have talents, we each have different gifts. The talent that I have and that I've had to nourish or nurture was the ability to write. And so I started working out as a newspaper reporter. And in that job, I learned not to be afraid to ask people questions sensitively. People do want to tell their stories and they want to trust you. And you just have to create that trusting environment for people. If you're more interested in writing fiction or poetry or something that doesn't involve journalism, my advice generally is to unplug for maybe an hour a day. No phone, no radio, no iPad, no iPod, no music, no text, just quiet and see what that feels like. It can be really uncomfortable at first. It can be really lonely and scary and weird, but you will be amazed what your imagination brings to the surface during that quiet. And then you'll start to crave it. You'll start to want time like that. I would keep a journal. I would read a lot. And I would show my work to others because the point is to communicate with somebody else. It's not enough, at least for me, to just write in a notebook. The point of the writing is to communicate with a reader. So to find opportunities either with a supportive writing group or put stuff up online, or if there's a school literary magazine, just gently start to put your work out there. You'll be amazed. People will be appreciative of what you've done. They'll support you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jordan. My question was there an important person in your life who led you to writing?
Is there an important person in my life who led me to write? I can't honestly say that there was one person. In fact, there were a lot of people who tried to stop me. And I think that fired up my kind of Irish righteous indignation to be like, I'll show you, I can write. Once I got to New York, I did have an editor who really, really believed in me and gave me lots of assignments and really, really believed in me. And she's one of my best friends to this day.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shanice, and my question is, do you have a favorite book of the ones that you have written, and what are your favorite books as a reader?
So if I'm to say, do I have a favorite book of my own? That's like saying, which is my favorite child? Right now, my son is totally the favorite. Daughter is in the doghouse. But of my books, I would say Sold is one of my favorites because the issue mattered to me a lot. The artistry of the book, I tried to write the very best I could do. And using that vignette style kind of forced me to, or encouraged me to write beautifully about a horrible situation. And I'm proud of the way that I wrote it. I hope that doesn't sound like bragging. And I would say my favorite books as a reader are two. One is This Boy's Life by Tobias Wolff. It's about a kid in a kind of a dead-end town with a violent stepfather, and this kid finds his way out by becoming a writer. And the other one is by Carson McCullers, and it's called A Member of the Wedding. And it's about a girl with a huge imagination stuck in a tiny, unimaginative southern town, and her brother's about to get married. And she thinks that she's actually part of the wedding. Like, her imagination is so huge. She thinks that she's in the wedding and that she's going to be moving away with them, and she's going to leave this podunk town for the glamour of wherever it is they're going. And she's not. And how she deals with that, and she becomes a writer. So I guess there's a reason why I like those two books.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jill, and I was wondering if you use any of your personal experiences in your books, and if so, which ones?
You know, I didn't consciously use my personal experience. And I think if you're trying to say, oh, well, you know, I fell off my bike and skinned my knee, and I'm going to put that in a book, and this is how it felt, you're not really going to get anywhere. It's better to be unaware of what's motivating you. So I wrote this book, Cut. I'm not a cutter. I'm way too much of a chicken. But I was writing about a girl who was she was hurting so badly, and she didn't have the language to express it. She didn't think anybody would listen to her. She was sort of choking on her own secrets and on her own inability to speak up for herself. And so she took it out on her body. Well, I never did that, but I definitely was a kid who felt so powerless and so voiceless growing up, and so alone and so angry and isolated that I took it out on my writing, I suppose. I also probably did some other stupid self-destructive things. But I wasn't aware that I was also writing my story through hers. It wasn't until I was finished, I looked back, and somebody else pointed it out, like, that's a lot like what you were like as a teenager. And it was what I was like, but I think it's somehow better if you don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Alexis.
Hi.
I'm a really big fan, but I wanted to ask how your writing experience affected your day-to-day life, and if you could tell us a little bit about your writing process.
Okay. How does writing affect my day-to-day life? I am my own boss, which is great because I get to choose my topics, my hours. You know, I could be doing this Skype visit in my pajamas. You don't know because you can't see. So there's a lot of freedom that comes with it. It also takes an enormous amount of discipline because I could really easily be out for a walk today or going to the movies or looking for brownies, which is one of the things I do. When the writing isn't going well, I go out on a search in New York for the best brownie. So I have to be a tough boss on myself, and I have to be a gentle boss so that when the writing gets tough and emotional, that I can say, okay, well, the office is closed now, we're going for lunch. So it gives me a lot of freedom. It takes a lot of diligence and discipline, and it makes me unbelievably happy. Like, if I start writing in the morning and I write 500 good words, that's a good day, and I close up the computer and I go home and I think, wow, you created something that didn't exist this morning. And I did it out of just my own imagination and my laptop. And that's really cool. My daily writing process is, I also get terrible writer's block. I get lazy and distracted, and I have to keep myself honest by telling my friends I haven't written for 3 days, and they'll say, okay, well, the boss is going to get mad at you. You need to get back to work. My usual writing process is I get up early and I do yoga, and then I sit down and write with no interruptions, no phone. I turn off the Wi-Fi. I ask everybody in my family to leave me alone until about 1 o'clock. Some days I go straight to work, and I go to a place called the Writer's Room where I rent a desk. No yoga, I just go straight there. And I work again until about 1 o'clock. The afternoons are more about catching up on emails, signing contracts, running down different things that are part of the life of being a writer, but that aren't about the creative part. Because usually by the afternoon, I'm toast.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
I think those are all the students who had planned to ask questions. We only have about 10 minutes left, so I'd like to share something with you and then maybe ask 2 questions on behalf of the students that you could wrap up our time with. First of all, I just wanted to share with you how inspired our students were by Sold. And the sophomore class took on a project inspired by the book. And I'd like them to stand up. I don't know if you can see them way at the top, but if Mr. Garland's sophomore class could stand up. You can maybe see a few of them way back there at the top. But after reading Sold, they did a little research into the issue of trafficking, and they wanted to put together a project to help victims of child trafficking. And so they did some research into various organizations and selected the group Love 146 and organized a school-wide campaign which students across grade levels participated in. And we encouraged students to donate small amounts of change, and we raised $1,600 that we're contributing to Love 146. So that's thanks to these guys behind us.
That is amazing, and that inspires me. So when I have a hard day and I don't feel like writing, I think about this, and it makes me realize that it's a chain. It's like a bucket brigade. I do one piece of it, you do one piece of it, and we all help people somewhere else. That's really, really touching.
Well, thank you for the inspiration. It really has inspired our students. So I have two questions, if you'll respond to these, and anything else you'd like to say before we're out of time. First of all, some of our teachers noticed that there is a movie version of Sold that seems like it's filmed, but we couldn't find details yet about release. So if you could speak a little bit about that experience, and then maybe share anything that you're willing to talk about in terms of what you're working on right now.
Okay, I'll tell you what I'm working on right now. I'm working on not working. I'm really seriously in a goof-off phase. But I have been trying to write a memoir about my childhood because I think it might be of value to other kids who grew up in households like mine. But I find myself shying away from it a lot. I'd much rather write about, trafficking or genocide or pretty much anything than writing about my little suburban home where a lot of damage was done and where there was a lot of pain and sadness. The movie is fantastic, but they're having a really hard time finding a distributor. The distributor is the person who takes the film almost theater by theater, convincing the theater owners that you need to screen this in your theater. And the theater owners are saying, no, thank you, we'd rather have X-Men or whatever. What just came out this weekend? There was some really big superhero movie. Well, at any rate, the Marvel, they're not going to make money on a little film like Sold. It takes, what the filmmakers are trying to do is to start a campaign little by little where each community goes to their theater and says, okay, you don't have to play it on Saturday night at 9 o'clock alongside X-Men and Wolverine and all the other big movies. But if we guarantee you that, 100 people will come on Tuesday at 7, will you screen it? And then they'll say, okay, yes, they will, because then they're guaranteed that those tickets are sold and that the movie can be shown. But it's an incredibly painstaking way to get a movie out there. So that's what they're working on. I'll post something on my website if there's a way for any of you to get involved or make a request to your local theater. The other thing that they will ultimately do is if they can't get into theaters at all, they're going to do like a 45-minute version and distribute it to schools. So it'll get there. It's just a hard process. And the guys who made the film sunk their whole life savings into it. So it's got to happen.
Thanks. We just have a few minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us about Sold or about your life as a writer?
I'm just so touched that you put this together and that there was such an enthusiastic response. And I'm still thinking about the fundraising that you did. And I just wanted to say that, we can't all go over there and do something, but by sending money, each person a little bit, it aggregates into a lot. $5 buys a new dress and a new pair of shoes for one girl who's gotten out of the brothels. And it also means something to be the receiving end of those funds, not just because it means you can get a new dress, or not just because it means you can get take a class in being a seamstress so that you can get a job so you never have to go back to the brothels. It also tells these people, you mean people in America care about me? I'm not forgotten. The power of knowing that a sophomore class from, you know, as far as if you're from Nepal, like Nowheresville, USA, with a bunch of kids put together their resources and their energy and sacrifice some of their money, it's really powerful. So I am just thanking you for that and very inspired by it. And you made my day, you really did.
Well, you've really made our day. We thank you for sharing your time today. I'm going to ask the students behind me to give you a big round of applause for sharing your time. Really,
well,
thank you.
Let's do this again sometime.
Thank you.
If you read another book or next year's sophomore class, let's do it again.
We look forward to it. Thank you for your books and thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me. Bye-bye.